Dear students, so we started with your translation studies and principles of translation. In the last video, we covered briefly the definition of translation and how it is made up of two words, translatio, which you separate them, then becomes trans means across and latio means to carry. So translation is nothing but a process of carrying across the meaning from one language to another, or converting the source language to the target language, right? So this is briefly the process of communication. We went briefly through the history of translation, and then we understood how translation is important in today's global world, how it is important or how it is significant in various spheres of life, right? In art and literature, education and academia, business and commerce, media and journalism, legal and government, healthcare and medicine. So importance of translation is also related to the spheres, almost on the similar lines. Similarly, different areas of translation also are connected to the spheres of translation. So we have literary translation, which is concerning literature. Literature means fiction, poetry, drama, novel, and other literary genres. And then legal, medical, technical, business, website and software, localization and audiovisual translation. Then another thing we learned was interpreting, which is actually oral translation, okay? And scientific and academic translation, and government and diplomatic translation. Then we discussed whether translation is an art or science. So you can go through the previous video, and we went through the brief history in East and the West, right? So now we come to this point where we discuss the purpose of translation, because it is a chapter in your book. So though we have covered the purpose or significance of translation in the previous slide also, so this is just a repetition and I'll be quickly going through it, right? So the purpose of translation, as you understood in the first video, is it acts as a literary, culture and knowledge bridge, right? Bridge means something which connects two ends. So what are the two ends? Two ends are the two different languages. So it is a kind of what you call as self-other interaction. Self-other means आपकी दूसरों के साथ interaction. और वो interaction तभी होगी when you know the other person's language, or the other person knows your language. Then only that interaction will take place. So ये जो self-other, self का मतलब आप और दूसरे के साथ जो interaction है, यही this is the purpose of translation. Now let us understand how translation is acts as a literary bridge. As we discussed in the first video, how it acts as a literary bridge, because you are able to understand the culture, different styles, themes. You are able to understand the the various aspects, nuances of language and culture through translation. So you can say that translators play a crucial role in preserving and promoting literary heritage. So I'll just quickly go through how it acts as a literary bridge. There may be a question asked in the exams that how translation acts as a literary bridge. So first of all, you must understand what literary means. Literary means anything which is related to literature. And what is literature? As I covered in the first video also, in the beginning of this video also, that anything which is available in the form of poetry, drama, fiction or other forms of literature, so that when it gets translated, so you get to understand, get to know different cultures, and you are able to access literature from different linguistic backgrounds. Second is, it introduces the reader to diverse literary styles, themes, genres, so that their literary horizon is expanded, right? And Thus, you can say that translators play a crucial role not only in preserving but also promoting literary heritage by translating classic and contemporary works into different languages so that they are accessible to the global audience. So this is how culture travels from one part of the world to another through literature. A person sitting in Spain or in the far end of Europe is able to understand how a Kinori tribe lives in Himachal. So that is only through translation. So first, that purpose is it acts as a literary bridge. You can understand from this image that how people speaking different languages, they can connect, they can understand, they can know about each other uh, through translation. Then second is cultural bridge. So both are interconnected. Through literature, you also come to know about the culture of that particular region or language. And if you talk about the cultural bridge aspect, then translation serves as a kind of uh, path, conduit. Conduit means path for cultural exchange. How the cultural exchange takes place, because once you are able to connect with the other side, uh, that is through translation, so you can transmit your ideas, your values, your tradition. That is what culture is. So culture is nothing but the ideas, the values, or the tradition which a particular community uh, follows. So through translation, you are able to transmit your cultural heritage from one place to another. And by translating cultural artifacts like literature, poetry, folklore, and religious texts, translation fosters cross-cultural understanding and appreciation. So when you come to know about the other culture, so you have a better understanding, and you also appreciate that particular culture through translation of these cultural artifacts like literature, poetry, folklore, and other religious texts. Then also this translation helps break down cultural barriers and stereotypes, because it provides you insight into the beliefs, customs, and perspectives of different societies. So many Europeans, they may have some uh, you know kind of stereotypical attitude towards the Asians, but when they go through the literature, when they come to know about the culture, when they come to know about the beliefs, customs, and perspectives of different societies, then their viewpoint changes. So this is how you change those stereotypical images, right? The next is translation. Translators often navigate cultural complexities and context to ensure that the translated text bonds well authentically with the target audience while preserving the cultural integrity of the original work. That means translators, they not only convey the meaning from one text to another. In fact, they are conveying the cultural complexities and context from the source text to the target text authentically. Okay, so that they are able to provide an authentic translation, so that they are able to preserve the cultural integrity of the original work. ये नहीं है कि word to word translate हो गया, तो you have to take so many things into account, right? So this is how translation acts as a cultural bridge. This is how different culture, they can uh, know each other, they can understand each other, they can develop empathy around the world, right? So next is the knowledge bridge. As I told you, this looks somewhat similar to what we understood in the first video. Knowledge bridge means you are able to get access to knowledge and information across linguistic boundaries. So you have direct access to academic research, scientific discoveries, educational materials, books, and also a wider audience. That is only possible through translation. And it also enables sharing of expertise and intellectual resources, so that there is advancement of scholarship and innovation on a global scale. As you can take the example of the big advancement in the field of uh, this information technology. So now, the research which is done by one scientist here in India or somewhere else in Europe, so that is available to anyone whosoever wants to access it. So that is how we develop, we grow further, we go further. Okay, so this expertise is available, and this is possible only through translations. And translators play a vital role in translating specialized texts, for example, in the field of medicine, technology, law, and humanities. So just to ensure that knowledge is accessible and available to everyone, anyone who desires it, across different linguistic and cultural contexts. So this is how translation acts as a knowledge bridge, right? Now you can see in this slide, there is a person standing on one edge of the world, who doesn't have any idea about some issue or some topic, and there is another person who is sitting at the other edge, and he knows the answer to this person's problems or this person's issues. So what is connecting them is translation. They cannot connect with each other unless they know each other's language, and that is possible through translation. So here, this is how translations acts as a kind of knowledge bridge. Okay, so now then last point is the self-other interaction. Self-other interaction, there may be a short note on this self-other interaction. तो ये कोई बहुत बड़ा वो नहीं है. सेल्फ अदर, मैंने पहले भी बोला, सेल्फ मतलब आप और अदर मतलब दूसरा, तो एक दूसरे के साथ इंटरेक्शन, राइट. सेल्फ अदर इंटरेक्शन. तो ट्रांसलेशन का पर्पज़ ही यही है भाई, जिस द पर्सन हु डज नॉट अंडरस्टैंड योर लैंग्वेज, ही गेट्स टू नो अबाउट यू और your perspective. So self-other interaction. So this translation fosters interaction and dialogue between self and other. तो एक दूसरे के बीच में डायलॉग को फोस्टर करता है, सपोर्ट करता है, सॉलिड बनाता है, by bridging the gap between different linguistic and cultural identities. So this is how translation helps in making that self-other interaction. सेल्फ-अदर इंटरेक्शन एंड डायलॉग, किसके बीच में, आपके और दूसरे आदमी के बीच में, क्या करके उस गैप को ब्रिज करके, उस गैप को ख़त्म करके जो आपकी लैंग्वेज और कल्चर की वजह से है. देन सेकेंड थिंग इज़ व्हेन यू स्टार्ट नोइंग द अदर फेलो, तब क्या देयर आर सर्टेन, एज वी डिस्कस इन द प्रीवियस स्लाइड, इन कल्चरल ब्रिज, that how people have stereotypical images. There may be some people who don't like a particular community of people, okay, because of that stereotypical image. But once you get to know those people and their perspective, then you develop an empathy. Okay, so जब आप किसी दूसरे को अच्छी तरह से जानने लगते हैं, तो तब तक हो सकता है आपकी जो उसके बारे में जो इम्प्रेशन हो वो नेगेटिव हो, बिकॉज ऑफ सम काइंड ऑफ lack of communication. So once you get to know each other through this literary bridge and this cultural bridge, so that way you start otherwise feeling compassionate for that fellow. So this is how it promotes empathy, and you start respecting the other fellow also. Okay, and जैसे मान लो सिटीज़ में रहने वाले लोग सोचें कि ये पहाड़ों में रहने वाले लोग क्या इतने दूर दूर चढ़ के रहते हैं, पत्तों पे खाते हैं, हम लोग तो बढ़िया डिस्पोजेबल में खाते हैं। बट जब उनको पता चलेगा कि ये पत्ते में खाने के क्या फ़ायदे हैं या क्या इसके एनवायरमेंटल यूजेस हैं, then they also start respecting the other culture, right? तो इसी तरह से this is how the self other interaction helps in promoting empathy and mutual respect. Okay, then through translations, readers can explore diverse worldviews, identities and narratives, fostering a sense of interconnect. और translation से क्या होता है, we get to know about different viewpoints, different identities, different narratives. So जब आपको एक डिफरेंट व्यू पॉइंट मिलता है, एक डिफरेंट नैरेटिव, you just get a different narrative. So then you come to know that the person whom I was hating as a monster, as a kind of outcast, जिसको मैं ये सोचता था, how similar he or she is to me. So that shows the interconnectedness and shared humanity across the world or across the globe. और आपको लगता है कि इस इंसान की भी वही प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो मेरी हैं, हालांकि वो मेरी तरह एक सिटी में नहीं रहता है, पहाड़ों में रहता है या जंगल में रहता है, बट स्टिल once you come to know about a different viewpoint, then you have that sense of interconnectedness. So overall, you can say the purpose of translation as a literary, cultural or knowledge bridge is to promote. इन सारी चीज़ों का क्या पर्पज़ है? आप एक लिटरेरी ब्रिज जिसमें आप नॉलेज या लिटरेचर दूसरी जगह की थ्रू ट्रांसलेशन यू हैव एन एक्सेस टू इट. कल्चरल ब्रिज, यू गेट टू नो अबाउट द कल्चर, the values, beliefs, customs of other people, or knowledge where you have access to different sources of knowledge. So ये सारी की सारी किस लिए हो रही है? Just to promote dialogue, एक दूसरे से बातचीत, understanding and enrichment through across linguistic and cultural boundaries. कि आपके बीच में कोई किसी तरह की linguistic और cultural boundary ना रहे, वही translation का purpose है, so that you can foster, so that you can understand, you can have empathy and mutual respect for others, and also you have you have exposure to a different viewpoint, and there is a sense of interconnected global community. So this is the purpose of translation. So this is self-other interaction. Self-other interaction, nothing but you are interacting with someone else who is not from your culture, who doesn't know your language, and that is possible only through translation, right? So now I will pause it here, and we will go to the next topic in the next video.